You spent thousands building what you thought was an impenetrable fortress. Steel doors, reinforced walls, surveillance cameras watching every angle. You told yourself that when chaos breaks loose, when intruders kick down your front door, or when society collapses into madness, you'll have one safe place to run: your panic room, your last line of defense. But here's the brutal truth most security companies won't tell you. That room you're counting on to save your life could become your tomb. And if you don't understand why right now, you're gambling with something you can't afford to lose. So before you put blind faith in four walls and a lock, subscribe to this channel, because what you're about to learn could mean the difference between surviving and suffocating in your own safe room. Let's start with the most dangerous myth, that a panic room is designed to keep you safe indefinitely. It's not. Most panic rooms are built for one specific scenario, a home invasion that lasts minutes, maybe an hour at most. The intruder searches, realizes they can't get in, and leaves. That's the fantasy. But reality doesn't work on a timer. What happens when the threat outside doesn't leave? What happens when you're facing a prolonged siege, a natural disaster that traps you inside, or a complete breakdown of law enforcement where help isn't coming at all? Your panic room wasn't built for that. And that's where the first critical vulnerability reveals itself: time. Most panic rooms have minimal supplies. Maybe some bottled water, a first aid kit, a flashlight. If you're lucky, enough food for a day or two. But think about this realistically. If you're forced into that room during a major disaster, a hurricane that floods your home, a wildfire that cuts off evacuation routes, or civil unrest that keeps you locked down for days, those supplies run out fast. And when they do, you face an impossible choice: stay inside and risk dehydration, starvation, or worse. Or open that door and face whatever forced you in there to begin with. The panic room that was supposed to protect you just became a trap. And it gets worse, because even if you stocked it properly, there's another silent killer most people never consider until it's too late: air. You need it to survive, but most panic rooms treat ventilation as an afterthought. Standard panic rooms rely on passive airflow, small vents that allow outside air to filter in. Sounds reasonable until you understand what that actually means. If there's a fire in your home, those vents pull in smoke. If there's a chemical attack, a gas leak, or even tear gas deployed by intruders trying to flush you out, that air system becomes a delivery mechanism for poison. You're breathing in the very thing that's supposed to kill you, and there's nothing you can do about it, because sealing those vents means cutting off your oxygen supply entirely. You suffocate either way. Professional-grade panic rooms use positive pressure systems with CBRN filters. That's chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear filtration. These systems actively push clean air into the room while keeping contaminants out. But here's the problem: most residential panic rooms don't have this. It's expensive, it requires maintenance, and installers often don't mention it because clients don't ask. So you end up with a room that protects you from bullets, but not from the air itself. And if you think you can just hold your breath or cover the vents with a towel, you're already in serious danger. Smoke inhalation kills faster than fire. Chemical exposure can incapacitate you in seconds. This isn't a minor design flaw. This is a fatal oversight that turns your safe room into a gas chamber. Now let's talk about the door, the one thing standing between you and the threat outside. It's steel, it's heavy, it locks from the inside. You feel secure. But that door has a weakness you probably never thought about: the hinges. Most panic room doors swing inward because it's harder to kick in a door that opens toward you. That's smart for quick forced entry attempts. But if someone outside has time, tools, and determination, those hinges become the weak point. Even interior hinges can be compromised with the right equipment. A hydraulic spreader, the same tool firefighters use to pry open car doors, can apply thousands of pounds of force. And if your door frame isn't anchored into solid concrete or steel, that door is coming off no matter how strong the lock is. Then there's the locking mechanism itself. Electronic locks are convenient. You punch in a code, the door opens, but electronics fail. Batteries die. EMP events, whether from solar flares or man-made devices, can fry circuits. If your panic room relies solely on an electronic lock and the power goes out, or the system glitches, you're either locked out when you need to get in or locked inside when you need to get out. Both scenarios are deadly. You need a manual override, a mechanical backup that doesn't depend on electricity or batteries. And that backup needs to be something only you know how to operate, because if intruders figure it out, your security just evaporated. But even if your door holds, even if your locks work perfectly, there's another entry point most people completely ignore: the walls themselves. You reinforce the door, but what about the drywall around it? What about the ceiling? Standard residential construction uses wood studs and drywall. A determined attacker doesn't need to go through your steel door. They can go around it. A chainsaw cuts through drywall and studs in minutes. So does a sledgehammer, a breaching tool, or even sustained kicks if someone knows where to target. If your panic room shares walls with the rest of your house, and those walls aren't reinforced with steel plating or concrete, you don't have a safe room. You have an expensive closet with a fancy door. Real panic rooms are built with reinforced concrete walls, steel plating, or ballistic-resistant materials on all 6 sides. That includes the floor and ceiling, because threats don't just come from the front. They come from above, below, and through the weakest point they can find. And if you're in a multi-story home, that ceiling is especially vulnerable. Someone in the room above you can breach downward. Someone in a crawl space or basement can breach upward. If your panic room isn't a true hardened structure, it's not protecting you. It's giving you false confidence while leaving you exposed. Now let's address something even more dangerous: communication. You're locked in your panic room, the threat is outside, and you need help. So you call the police. Except your cell phone has no signal because panic rooms are often built in interior spaces with thick walls that block reception. Or maybe the local cell tower is down, or the grid is offline. Or you're in a disaster scenario where emergency services are overwhelmed and not responding. What's your backup? Do you have a landline that runs into the room, a satellite phone, a two-way radio? If the answer is no, you're completely cut off. Nobody knows you're in danger. Nobody is coming. And that isolation can be just as deadly as the threat outside. Professional setups include hardwired communication systems, dedicated phone lines that can't be cut from outside, internet-based alert systems that notify authorities and emergency contacts simultaneously, and backup communication devices that don't rely on local infrastructure. Because when you're in a survival situation, communication isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. And if you don't have multiple redundant ways to call for help, you're betting your life on a single point of failure. Let's talk about another critical flaw: visibility. You're inside the panic room. What's happening outside? Most people install a camera or two, maybe a monitor that shows the front door. That's not enough. You need complete situational awareness. You need to see every approach, every window, every entry point. Because if you can't see what's happening, you can't make informed decisions. You don't know if the threat has left. You don't know if backup has arrived. You don't know if fire is spreading through your house. You're operating blind. And that's when people make fatal mistakes. They open the door too soon, or they stay inside too long. Advanced systems use multiple cameras with night vision and thermal imaging, covering every angle with no blind spots. The feeds run to monitors inside the panic room with battery backup so you maintain visibility even during power outages. Some systems integrate motion sensors and audio surveillance so you can hear what's happening, not just see it. Because sound tells you things video doesn't. Footsteps, voices, tools being used. That information shapes your response. It tells you whether you're dealing with amateurs or professionals, whether the threat is escalating or retreating, whether you need to stay put or prepare for breach. But here's where things get even more serious. Let's say your panic room is perfect. Reinforced walls, filtered air, backup power, multiple communication systems, complete surveillance. You're locked inside, safe and secure. Now what? Because being safe for an hour is very different from being safe for days or weeks. And if you haven't planned for long-term sustainability, that perfect room becomes a coffin. You need water, not just bottles, but a reliable supply. You need food that doesn't require cooking unless you have a way to safely prepare it without filling the room with smoke or using up oxygen. You need sanitation because a bucket in the corner stops being acceptable after the first day, and human waste in an enclosed space creates health hazards fast. You need climate control because panic rooms can get dangerously hot or cold depending on the season and your location. Without ventilation or temperature regulation, you're facing heat exhaustion, hypothermia, or both. You need lighting that doesn't drain your batteries. You need a way to dispose of trash. You need medications, personal hygiene supplies, and ways to maintain mental stability because isolation and stress break people down faster than physical threats. This isn't about hoarding supplies. This is about understanding that survival in a confined space requires planning for every biological and psychological need, not just immediate danger. And then there's the exit strategy, the thing almost nobody thinks about until it's too late. You're in your panic room. The immediate threat has passed. Time to come out. But what if the door is blocked from the outside? What if debris from a collapse, fire damage, or intentional barricading has sealed you in? What if flooding has made your exit impassable? If you don't have a secondary escape route, you're trapped. And that's not survival. That's a death sentence with extra steps. Properly designed panic rooms include emergency egress options, a hidden tunnel, a reinforced window with quick-release bars, a hatch that leads to another part of the structure. These aren't Hollywood fantasies. They're practical necessities because any single point of failure system will eventually fail. The door that's supposed to protect you can become the thing that kills you if it's your only way out. And if you're relying on rescuers to find you and extract you, you're assuming they'll arrive in time and have the tools and knowledge to breach your room safely. That's a lot of assumptions when your life is on the line. Let's talk about something most people never consider: the psychological impact of panic room use. You're locked in a small, enclosed space. The adrenaline from the initial threat starts to fade. Now you're sitting in near darkness, listening to every sound, wondering what's happening outside, questioning every decision. Time distorts. Minutes feel like hours. Anxiety spikes. Claustrophobia sets in. Children panic. Family members argue. People make irrational choices because the human mind isn't designed to function optimally under prolonged extreme stress in confined spaces. And if you haven't trained for this, if you've never done drills or simulated scenarios, that panic room becomes a pressure cooker of fear and bad decisions. Training matters. Your family needs to know how to get to the panic room quickly, how to operate every system, how to stay calm, how to ration supplies, how to communicate, and how to make decisions under pressure. Because in a real emergency, there's no time to read instructions or figure things out. Muscle memory and preparation are the only things that work. And if you haven't drilled this, if your family doesn't know the plan, that expensive room is just an expensive failure waiting to happen. Now let's address the biggest vulnerability of all, the one that undermines everything else: secrecy. If people know you have a panic room, it's no longer a safe room, it's a target. Home invaders, especially professionals, do reconnaissance. They watch, they learn, they plan. And if they know you have a fortified position, they'll plan for it. They'll bring tools to breach it. They'll bring ways to flush you out. They'll use fire, smoke, threats, or siege tactics. Because a known panic room isn't a deterrent, it's a challenge. And worse, it tells them you have something valuable worth protecting, which makes you a higher priority target. Operational security is everything. Don't post about your panic room on social media. Don't brag to neighbors. Don't let contractors or workers spread the word. The best panic room is the one nobody knows exists. It's hidden, disguised as something mundane, accessible only to those who need to know. Because the moment your security measures become public knowledge, they stop being security measures and start being liabilities. And in a collapse scenario where desperation drives people to extremes, that knowledge can get you killed. There's also the harsh reality that panic rooms are designed for specific threats. And if the threat doesn't match the design, the room fails. A room built to stop bullets won't stop fire. A room built to withstand home invasion won't survive structural collapse. A room built for short-term lockdown won't sustain you through a prolonged disaster. You need to understand what your panic room can and cannot do. And if the threat exceeds its capabilities, you need alternate plans. Because betting everything on one defensive position is tactically unsound. You need layers, redundancy, and options. If Plan A is the panic room, what's Plan B? What's Plan C? If you don't have answers, you're not prepared. You're just hoping. Let's get into fire. because this is where panic rooms become death traps faster than any other scenario. Structure fires spread fast, smoke rises, heat intensifies, and within minutes, temperatures in adjacent rooms can exceed survivable limits. If your panic room is inside your house and the house catches fire, you're facing a nightmare scenario. Even with filtered air, the heat itself can become lethal. Even with reinforced walls, the structure around you can collapse. And if you're locked inside with no way to escape, you're choosing between burning alive or suffocating from smoke inhalation. This is why secondary egress isn't optional, it's life or death. Some high-end panic rooms include fire suppression systems, sprinklers, or gas-based suppression that activates automatically. But most residential setups don't have this. And even if they did, suppression buys you time, not safety. You still need to get out. You still need an escape route that doesn't lead through the fire. And if your escape plan assumes you can just open the door and walk out, you're not accounting for the reality that doors become superheated, smoke obscures visibility, and flames block exits. You need a route that's separate, protected, and tested. Flooding is another underestimated threat. If your panic room is in a basement or ground floor and your area floods, water will find its way in. It seeps through cracks, rises through drains, and breaches seals. And once water starts coming in, your options disappear fast. Electronics fail, supplies get ruined, breathing space shrinks. And if the water level rises above your head, you drown. This is why panic rooms in flood-prone areas need to be elevated or designed with water-resistant seals and drainage systems. And even then, you need an exit strategy that accounts for water blocking your primary route. Then there's structural failure. Earthquakes, tornadoes, explosions, or even shoddy construction can compromise the integrity of your home and your panic room. If the building collapses, your reinforced room might survive, but you could still be buried under debris with no way to dig out. Or the collapse could rupture your air supply, crush your door, or cut off escape routes. This is why location matters. A panic room built into a concrete foundation has a better chance than one built into a wood frame house. A room with independent structural support is safer than one that relies on the surrounding building. And a room with multiple egress options survives scenarios that single exit rooms don't. Let's talk about power. Your panic room needs it. For lights, for communication, for ventilation, for surveillance. Most people install a backup battery system. That's good, but batteries have limits. They discharge, they degrade, and they eventually die. If you're in a prolonged lockdown and your batteries run out, you're sitting in darkness with no way to see, call for help, or maintain life support systems. You need redundant power sources, solar panels with charge controllers, generator backup with fuel storage, multiple battery banks with rotation schedules. And you need to test these systems regularly because the middle of an emergency is not the time to discover your backup power doesn't work. Medical emergencies inside a panic room are another critical vulnerability. Someone has a heart attack, an asthma attack, a severe allergic reaction, or a traumatic injury. You're locked in a room with limited medical supplies and no way to get professional help inside. This is where advanced first aid training becomes essential. You need more than a basic kit. You need trauma supplies, prescription medications, oxygen if anyone in your family has respiratory issues, and the knowledge to use all of it. Because calling 911 doesn't help if they can't reach you, and waiting to get out could mean someone dies from a treatable condition. Now let's address the legal and ethical complications. In some jurisdictions, panic rooms and fortified structures are subject to building codes, permits, and inspections. If you build one without proper authorization, you could face fines, legal action, or be forced to remove it. Worse, in some scenarios, having a fortified panic room can complicate insurance claims or create liability issues. And if something goes wrong, if someone gets hurt because of a design flaw or malfunction, you could be held responsible. This isn't about scaring you away from building one. It's about making sure you do it right, legally and safely, so it actually protects you instead of creating new problems. There's also the reality that panic rooms can give you a false sense of security. You think that because you have one, you're covered, so you stop improving other aspects of your security and preparedness. You don't harden entry points. You don't develop situational awareness. You don't train your family. You don't build relationships with neighbors who could provide mutual aid. And when something happens, you realize too late that the panic room was never meant to be your only line of defense. It's a last resort, not a first response. And if you've neglected everything else, that last resort might not be enough. So what's the solution? How do you build a panic room that actually works? You start by understanding the threats you're most likely to face: home invasion, natural disasters, civil unrest, fire, structural failure. You design for all of them, not just one. You use reinforced materials on all 6 sides. You install professional-grade filtration with positive pressure. You include multiple communication systems with backup power. You stock for long-term sustainability, not just immediate lockdown. You build in secondary egress routes that you test and practice. You train your family until the procedures are second nature. And you maintain operational security so the room stays a true safe haven, not a known target. You also integrate your panic room into a broader security strategy: hardened doors and windows on the exterior, alarm systems with redundant monitoring, neighborhood watch relationships, situational awareness training, escape plans that don't rely on the panic room. Because the best defense is layered, and the best panic room is the one you never have to use because your other defenses worked. But if you do need it, it should be capable of keeping you alive and functional for as long as necessary, with options to communicate, monitor, sustain, and escape. And here's the final truth. If you're reading this and realizing your panic room doesn't meet these standards, you have a choice. You can ignore it and hope nothing ever goes wrong. Or you can take action now, assess your vulnerabilities, make upgrades, and turn that room into something that actually works. Because survival isn't about hoping. It's about preparing. It's about facing uncomfortable truths and fixing them before they kill you. And if you're serious about protecting your family, if you're serious about being ready when everything falls apart, then you need to treat your panic room like the life or death system it is, not a luxury feature you installed and forgot about. Your panic room should be the fortress you think it is, but only if you build it right, stock it right, train for it, and integrate it into a complete survival strategy. Anything less is just an expensive box that gives you false hope while real threats close in. Don't let that be your story. And if you want to go deeper, you'll find in the pinned comment some guides and documents that can take your preparedness to the next level. Check them out when you're ready. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that like button if this opened your eyes, and drop a comment telling me what your biggest panic room concern is, because I read every single one, and your questions shape the content that comes next. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, because the people who think they're prepared are often the ones in the most danger. Stay sharp, stay ready, and I'll see you in the next one.